Welcome back. So now we have our DTOs ready. Now let's figure out how we can send a request from Angular all the way to the web API. We need an HTTP client for that, and Angular already built one for us so that we can send these requests from the front end to the back end. So that's what we're going to try and do next. We'll do that inside a service. There are reasons for that I'll come back to, but the services is kind of a way for us to encapsulate every single way of communicating with the back end in this case. And then if I wanted to change it later on, maybe I wanted to go to socket communication instead of HTTP client communication, I could easily change that service. So we'll move all the logic of communicating with the REST API into a service. In order to do that, we need a service. So let's start by generating a service. I'll do that by calling ngGenerate again. I'll write S for service, and I'll put it inside the products folder right here, because that's where the service belongs. So I'll put it in the products folder under the shared again, because I'll reuse that service throughout a lot of different components I'm going to build. And then the final thing is just give it a name. And in this case, let's just call it products. That's the name of the service as well. So there we go. Now we have a new service. You can also put it in service instead of S if you want to. And the service is now available, producing two files for us in the shared folder. The first file right here is a spec file. That's for testing purposes. I know I should do this test driven, but I don't have the time right now. I'll get back to that and show you how to do that later. That's normally what a developer would say, right? But I will actually do it. If you go into the product service right here, you'll notice that a service is pretty much just a simple class that has this injectable above it. And the injectable pretty much means that you can dependency inject this into any of your components in the system. And you can actually inject it into services as well if you want to. It's injectable into any constructor in your system now. Now, what does the service do? Well, in our case, the service needs to be able to communicate to an HTTP client. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to go into the module right here, the products module, and explain that we're going to need access to a new module called the HTTP client module. Like this. So we need access for that in order to start communicating and using the HTTP client. We need access to the client module in our system right here. So we'll go into the service now, and the final thing we'll do is just prepare ourselves so we can start using this HTTP client inside the service. And let's just try and do that. We will say private to explain this should be available only inside the service. I don't want to access it from the outside. We're going to put in underscore HTTP and then explain the type, which is going to be an HTTP client. Now, this client, just to show you, is a way for us to now do full GET request, PUT request, POST request, delete request. So we have all the different request types that we can do from Swagger. We can now do those now from Angular and actually send these requests to the backend. Meaning, if you look at the drawing, you now have access to start creating these requests so we can send them to the web API. When we know where to go, we can add those requests. So I want to do one final thing before we end it. I just want to get this service into our component right here. So I'll go into the list of component, and I can do the same thing now. I can make a private. And let's just make it private and put in the service right here. So we'll do product service underscore product service. There we go, product service, and it's of the type product service. So now we have this available, and next lesson we can create our first method inside the product service so we can get all products. So that's it for this lesson. Let's end it right here. Now we have just added a service.